What is at the top of the offseason wish list for all Michigan State fans? Well, let's find out with our guy, Stephen Brooks.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for ending your week with us here at Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below if you're watching on YouTube. What is at the top of your offseason wish list for our Michigan State Spartans? And before getting to that, Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports, we do have some portal news right now. We are recording in the middle of the afternoon. Have to timestamp it because you never know what's going to happen after this recording. But at the time of this conversation, Stephen, there's been one more portal entry, even though it technically opens next week. Jaron Glover announcing his intentions to go to the portal. He's no stranger of the portal. Did this last offseason too, in the last fall. 8 games, 15 catches, 2 touchdowns. Starting receiver, obviously not at the higher end of production. I wish him well. I don't really have much more to add on top of that. Thought we'd get a little more out of him this year. I don't know. You can say that about a lot of players on the team this year, though. So
that's fair.
Go spread your wings, Jaron. If you come back here, great. If you don't, it'd be like that sometimes. It's kind of where I'm leaving off there. I know that's really in-depth and nuanced, but just another name. We expect around a dozen-ish names to defect from the team. So that's where it stands with Jaron in your latest portal news. Stephen, did you fall out of your chair when you saw this one, or how'd you take the news?
No. I kind of, you expect, like you say, it's just what it is now. You expect a certain amount of turnover. And, in some ways there's sort of a blueprint and a mold, of guys that are more likely than not. There's always surprises both ways that you think there's no way they'd leave and they go, of course, and the other way. So, like you said, you expect a certain amount of it. And I kind of thought, he's a guy, again, you talk about a blueprint, not from around here, has been in the portal before. So he stuck around, gave this staff a chance. Didn't have a great season, missed some games, was a starter though, played a lot, just the ball didn't come his way a ton either. So I guess, you put all that together, you can start to understand where a guy would want to start fresh, and maximize what he has left, I guess. But it's a loss, I think he is a starting caliber wideout, at this level. But I don't think it's a detrimental loss, to that point. I don't think it's program shaking necessarily. Now we'll see when you stack these other ones on top of it that are eventually going to come, whoever they may be. Maybe they'll feel differently about it. But just in a vacuum, it's not a great loss, but it's not horrific either, I guess I would say.
Right,
so,
yeah. It's not good riddance, but it's not like I'm going to lose sleep over it. I don't know. Because receivers are kind of, I don't want to use the term a dime a dozen as if, they're just raining from the sky in the transfer portal, but the portal is always healthy with skill position players, isn't it?
Look, you're telling me you can't find somebody, I'm looking at it right now, you can't find somebody in the portal to come in and get you 15 passes for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns? I think
I'll do it.
Yeah. Look, and again, I do think he's a pretty good player with a higher ceiling than he showed. But he was definitely, we had caught whispers that there was going to be sort of a little bit of a that there was going to be some turnover, and he was definitely somebody that mentally I'd put on my list. Like, okay, I'm going to be watching for him.
Okay,
so there we go.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And, as we go into our offseason wish list here, obviously receiver will be on that list. I think specifically like a speedy slot receiver, they kind of need someone that Silas Bolden was at Oregon State. That's going to open up a little more things in the offense. Tried it with Alante Brown, all 15 snaps he was healthy for this season. Isaiah Johnson, kind of, but no one really like a speed demon there. But there's plenty of other items on this offseason wish list. You could pretty much put every position on it. Maybe except quarterback, but even then I wouldn't mind a veteran, kind of like a Tommy Schuster type. But regardless, Steve, headlining my wish list for this offseason, I don't think we're going to shock anyone here. It's got to be on that offensive line. right? And just to put a name to it, this name has been on Twitter because, well, Northwestern interior offensive lineman Josh Thompson, he announced his intentions to go to the portal. Now, he was the 8th highest graded guard amongst Big Ten and SEC players, pointed out by your colleague Alan True of 24/7 Sports. Now, a little bit of hometown sizzle to this one. He is from Fenton, Michigan, but look, this ain't no chip shot for Michigan State. Obviously, they've been in connection with him. Michigan has been in connection with him. There are going to be plenty of big programs connected to him because, unlike receiver, strong offensive linemen just don't trickle into the portal all the time. So if you want a name, Josh Thompson, that's going to be a really, really, really good get. Should Michigan State close the deals there, I'd be a little surprised because, again, every other program, even maybe a few NFL teams, will be dipping in for Josh Thompson's services. Is that obvious of an answer of what's number one on the offseason wish list for Michigan State football? Is it just offensive linemen, or is there even another position that takes over for that one, Stephen?
No way. No, you nailed it. There's no way it could be. I mean, offensive line has to be 1, 2, and 3 in terms of your priorities. Because when you look at this team, what was the biggest thing that held it back? Line of scrimmage play on offense specifically by a mile compared to the next biggest problem by a mile.
Okay.
So they have to be aggressive. Josh Thompson that you mentioned would be a great pickup. They are in contact. I certainly expect them to push very, very hard there. As you said, it will be extremely competitive for him or guys like him. Just on the surface level, though, I was just talking to Corey and Justin, guys I work with before I got on here, and it does seem like the offensive line market in the transfer portal this year seems a little higher, a little more quality than we've seen in the past because you're seeing guys.
That's good news. Okay.
Yeah, you're seeing guys with 10, 12, a season and a half of starts to them, several hundred snaps, older guys who've played. It's not like 4-star washout guy after 1 year or, fourth-year guy who only played 2 games over his career. Like you're seeing legitimate starting caliber guys in there. At least, anecdotally, to me, it seems to be a higher cut of offensive linemen that you see in there. And I guess it maybe makes sense because those guys are getting paid. Spencer Brown got a big payday to go out to Oklahoma and keep playing bad football for them. So you can, I'm sure that stuff gets around. If you're a decent offensive lineman, you've shown your stuff as a starter. Yeah. You're going to be valued out there. So to the point, to the discussion, Michigan State has to be aggressive. Maybe even a stronger word than that, whatever, violently aggressive.
Desperate. Yeah.
Pursuing offensive linemen. Yes. Pay them as much as you can, understand your budget, and throw a huge ton of money at them. Whatever the budget is, you got to siphon off a certain chunk, a big chunk, and say, this is for the offensive line, whatever it takes. We have to get better here. I'm talking multiple players, multiple starters, ideally,
right?
Maybe even a couple more in the 2, I'm 3 or 4 probably total. It would be ideal. You just need more there. Across the board, you need more depth, you need more playable guys, you need more high-end talent. You really can't go wrong there. I mean, if they spent the whole budget on offensive line, I think there could be worse strategies, to be honest. So if you got nothing else out of the portal, it's just been that bad, and we saw how it affected things. And so I do think, and now being realistic, MSU, no, they're not going to be the biggest check probably for most of these guys, if not all of them. But
small problem there, right?
Potentially, the tier 1 guys, of course, going to be a real fight. We'll see what they can do there. But I do think they should, again, the aggressiveness, you have opportunity. Maybe you can go play for a title or something in the SEC, but right here you can walk right in. You won't have to compete with anybody. I'm not sure you say that, but you make it pretty clear based on results. You're going to walk right in. There's a ton of opportunity. You're going to play for an offensive line coach who has developed guys who were not, all world, and turned them into good players and pros. That opportunity to play in the offense that is a pro style system. You're not just going to be pass setting for 50 throws a game or whatever it might be. Yeah. It's a translatable system to the next level. So you have to lean into those intangibles. Because I doubt you're just going to be the biggest spender. So spend competitively, but then ancillary, pitches of opportunity, development, need, just we need you, man, that type of stuff. They're really gonna have to lean into that, I think, but it's absolutely the biggest area of need this offseason.
I'm going to clip the last 60 seconds and send that to every single offensive line transfer. That was a good sell job. Come play for Michigan State. day one starter. You say that behind closed doors, sure, whatever. You don't say it publicly, but
Sure.
hey, pretty good offensive line coach. Took Talise Fuaga, if I'm saying that name even somewhat correctly, into like a, what was he, 1,200 ranked prospect into a top 15 draft pick. We know the talking points here. So if you're an offensive lineman looking for work here, please come to East Lansing. Please, I'm begging you. I'm also begging you guys to check out Mint Mobile. You like that segue right there? Guys, the fine folks at Mint Mobile, they want to save you money this holiday season, and I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It's got to be easy, no hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, well, I called them on it, and yeah, turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. Now to get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. There you'll see that right now all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. To get this new customer offer in your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Also, check out this shirt I'm wearing. HomeField Apparel hooking it up yet again. Just got another huge shipment from them. Some great crew necks because I just can't get enough of HomeField Apparel. They're all about the vintage looking logos, like right now, 90s Spartans logo on the body right now. Also, don't tell anyone, but I've also shopped outside of Michigan State recently too. Yeah, I got another cool Hawaii hoodie that I will be beating the brakes off of. I got a really cool shirt that's representing the Florida Gators. HomeField makes you a fan of other schools when you have no intentions of ever stepping outside of MSU. That's how cool their designs are. Or, guys, for the holiday season, well, let's say, for example, you have someone in your life that's not a Spartan. Well, they got hundreds of schools on their websites to choose from with great logos. And again, guys, this is going to be the most comfortable clothing you or that person in your life will have. Go to homefieldapparel.com, smash in promo code Spartan24 to save 15% off your first purchase. Again, guys, homefieldapparel.com, promo code Spartan24 to save 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Now let's drag him back out here. Great friend of the podcast, great friend in real life. It is Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports. And am I over exaggerating there when I say that there's really no position that should go untouched in the transfer portal? It seems like you could use help everywhere. Maybe secondary, but even after last year, you thought secondary had depth, and then next thing you know, Zeke the Wonder Dog was the next man up on the depth chart. I think every position's on the table here, Stephen, right?
I don't think you need a quarterback, to be honest. Charles, you're looking at him as a junior now. Obviously, he's your guy. He's not going to be unseated or anything like that. But even behind him, like Alessio Milivojevic, I think is still a really intriguing player.
Okay.
He looked pretty good to me as a freshman when back in training camp when we were able to go in there and watch him for a little bit. And after a year of development behind the scenes, I just think for the future, not next year or anything, but I do think he could step in probably next year for you in a pinch.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think they're probably good there, especially, you're bringing in Leo Hannon now. So you've got the numbers, unless one were to leave, obviously if somebody were to leave, I guess in this portal window, you'd want to restock just the numbers there and get those right, but not there. Everywhere else, pretty much. Yeah. I think DB, you think you could use a starting corner. I think you could use a safety. Ed Woods is going to go out. There's competition for that spot coming in, but you're talking about a lot of younger guys still, and guys just haven't proven much. And so it is a little hard without knowing exactly who's going to be leaving. I mean, I don't know for sure that Chuck Brantley is going to be back. He's draft eligible, and he had a pretty good year.
Yeah,
of course, right. The transfer portal is always there, so I can't say for sure there. Maybe you need 2 starting corners. Malik Spencer missed the end of the year. I would think he's back, I guess, but I'm not totally sure. You can't be totally sure about anybody. So, yeah, in terms of the must-haves, though, pass rush for sure. And that's, again, probably even more than offensive tackle or offensive line in general. That's probably the hardest to get out of the portal because that's the real money makers right there.
Okay.
So very, very hard to do. You're probably going to be looking at taking a chance on a guy from the lower level who's been a little productive, or I guess there could be a situation out there where a guy's just like really toolsy, and just hasn't clicked for him yet at a big school, and you pick him up and coach him up or something. But somehow you got to develop pass rush. I mean, 6 games without, whatever, 2 months basically without a sack, whatever they went there was egregious, So they're losing some linebackers with Turner and Halliday. Going to want depth there. Tight end, they're okay, but if you get a decent guy there, your top 3 is pretty good though with Velling, Masunas, Parachek, if that remains intact. Running back, of course. When you look at it, I would say offensive line, pass rush, even just across the line, D line. You could use some tackles, you could use anybody up there. Running back too, though. I mean, I think we're probably looking at, unless Nate Carter comes back, but apparently he's sort of making a decision. And
okay,
Jonathan Smith kind of like he was asked about him yesterday and tried to dodge it, but in dodging it, kind of to me read that he's not going to be back. But that's just my read, folks, just to be clear.
Yeah, I'm just trying to connect the dots here because he was included with senior day stuff. He can come back. Does he want to? Does Michigan State want him to? That's like, there's like 49 items on the offseason storyline list. It's probably near the bottom, but it certainly is like one to keep your eye on because I just can't get a read on the whole situation. But even if he's back, you probably want another guy if you.
Yeah, at least one probably either way. If he's gone, probably 2, maybe. I think there's a good shot that your starting back next year is a transfer that we just don't know who he is yet. Now I do like Tullis and Frazier, last year's freshmen. From what we saw in the spring portion, and then a little bit during the season, I think they've got decent futures ahead of them to where they could be your guy in time, maybe as soon as next year, maybe. But I think I'd see them wanting to bring in somebody a little more proven, maybe just a little older to sort of be the lead dog, and then filter those other guys in there behind them. But running back absolutely will be addressed. D line, offensive line probably would be those top 3 DBs. But like you said, there's not an area you really can't take a guy other than I would say quarterback. It's just a waste probably unless somebody leaves.
Now let's get to the other hot topic of the week. It's signing day. Of course, Michigan State kind of buried in the team rankings. We've made no secret of that. The fan base has made no secret of that. It is what it is. On the day, though, they were on the good end of some surprises. Jace Clarizio, he flips from Alabama after flipping from Michigan State. You have Aidan West sticking with his commitment, turning down Ohio State, which was after him. Virginia Tech, of course, had him on campus. And then, UCLA was also there with Coach Meek going out there. And then Leo Yu, linebacker or edge rusher from Hawaii. We'll see where he projects when he gets here. Of those 3, what's the most seismic moment that happened on signing day? I feel like just because it's Alabama, Jace Clarizio, and that was just so fresh on us, maybe it's that. But then again, we're talking instant impact players in the pass rush. Maybe we do got to go to the Hawaiian Islands and visit the North Shore of Oahu to find our answer here. But what say you, Mr. Brooks? What do you think was the best surprise for Michigan State?
For me, the biggest development was keeping West. So, but I think most people would say Clarizio because just surface level optically, East Lansing kid, Alabama, you beat Alabama, you got him back. I think that has a lot of cachet for folks, and it should. It was impressive. I just don't. Personally, I can't imagine going to college in my hometown necessarily. So I'd never fault these guys, Andrew, Anthony, whatever, going all the way back.
Completely
going
fair.
To college 5 blocks from your high school, that just doesn't sound fun to me, especially when people all across the country want you to come check out their school and different regions. So I never blame those kids, but some fans see East Lansing, you have to be a Spartan, you must be a Spartan. There's no other way. So optically, if they would have lost him, people would say, what the heck is that? And that the fact that you got him back, the fact that you got him back from Alabama, which in Jace's lifetime has been the gold, diamond, platinum, triple standard, even more so than people like you and me. So that is impressive. I think for most people, they would say that. For me, it's West, though, because I think he's a better player. I think he's more likely to play early. And I think it was more of I think just beating Ohio State head-to-head is a big deal, too. And from what I understand, some of it had to do with simply upping the money and MSU getting their money in order. And I think that's important.
Definitely. Okay.
Yeah, how we've seen the cycle play out. There's absolutely some of that could have happened with Jace, too. I just am not as familiar with how that all unfolded. But absolutely, they upped the deal with West to keep him in the fold. And I don't think that was the only factor. I know that wasn't the only factor. But either way, when there's been so many questions about MSU's ability in the NIL era and what type of resources are really there, to hear that you're beating Ohio State by putting more money on the table is, I think, a good thing. And again, I think you come right, Jonathan Smith was asked about possible immediate contributors, and Aidan West was the first one he mentioned. Now, I think that's maybe a little bit of politics, but also some fact in terms of his skill set. He will enroll early. He's got really good tape. I mean, Ohio State wanted him, and they've been plugging out, pumping out DBs at a very high rate. Maybe not as many high draft picks lately, but still really good college players and all conference dudes, and just very good pedigree there. For them to really want him, I think speaks to the type of player he is. So big time pickup, fringe 4-star guy for 24/7. I think he's an 88 or an 89 rating, which means you're right on that cusp. So really good player, and to keep him in the fold when it looked pretty dicey, up until probably Tuesday night, I wasn't very sure. Definitely Monday, I was not confident. Tuesday, I thought, and then going into Tuesday night, I'm like, okay, what's really up in the air here? So that's the most impressive one to me, but I can understand folks feeling like Clarizio was too. And
FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook for a reason, and you'll find out very quickly, especially if you are a new customer, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Go ahead, jump all over their same game parlays, their live bets. Today's Lions-Packers game, if you're listening to this early enough, they have a live 25% profit boost on that game. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That is at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Leonard IU, I think, is a really good pick, but just coming off a 2-year mission, I don't know what you're going to, I don't know what type of horizon we're looking at.
Completely fair point. Yeah.
And that was something I asked Smith about. It's like, do you worry, I hesitate to use the word concern because he's out there on a religious mission. So it's like, I don't want to paint it.
It's a sticky situation, right?
But I don't know how much football he's been doing, I mean, what type of course you can stay in shape and do ladder drills or whatever, but he acknowledged that's just part of it, so he might need a little time, but he will be coming in older. You would think a little more advanced body in that way. Now they got to tune it up and refine it in the weight room. But he's a really interesting player. And as you said, gives him maybe some edge linebacker versatility that could be important. But I'm still going with West to the actual question.
Now, to really just, stake your claim into one of these diamonds in the rough, because point blank, that's what we're hoping for. A lot of diamonds in the rough with the 50th ranked class. I've planted my flag in the Braylon Collier camp. I think he's going to be a solid player here. George Mullins from Florida. I actually like his ball skills. I think he's very instinctual of a high school player. Let's see how it translates over time here in college. Of course, not every kid in the class, and you can say this for any class, even the top 5, not all will succeed, not all will flop. So, Steven, which player or players do you want to throw your chips in right now? Which one are you buying right before they even enroll into college? Let's go.
I like Collier a lot, so I'm with you there. I'm already thinking of all the nice Cedar Point, puns and headlines. Kids from San
nauseating.
Touchdown machine. I mean, last I saw, I think he had 49 receiving touchdowns. I think that's an old number now in his career.
That's not bad.
Which to me, I don't care if you're playing 8-man football in Alaska. That's a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's playing the best of the best in Ohio. I don't know, the size of the school, but I don't care. That's a lot of touchdowns, receiving touchdowns only. I'm sure. I know he has a couple others. I think on special teams, probably ran a few in and everything. That is a lot of touchdowns. So I like him a lot. You look at him, I think he's got some advanced things to his game for a young kid. Route running, just sort of feel for the ball in the air, body control. He's got some good speed to him. So I think he's definitely underrated. But then you look at the class, he's near the midsection, top of the midsection. So I don't know if I can call even him a diamond. A real one, maybe to me, is Drew Nichols, who's down there near the bottom of their class ranking. California offensive lineman. You look at him and the mobility and athleticism stands out. And that's what you have to have in this system, which I think we're going to see more guys like him coming in. With Tucker and those guys, they wanted the Georgia look where it's 5 semi trucks up there, and you're just bulldozing the way through. In this system with so much wide zone, and that's not the only thing that they do, but that is a bread and butter staple of what they do. You have to be athletic to get out on the edge and to move horizontally to create those seams, wherever they may occur, and to get up to linebackers on double. You have to be able to move. And he shows that, consistently on his tape. He's a younger guy for his grade, so I think there's more room, to grow with him. So I like Nichols a lot. I think he could fit in. He feels like one of those guys that they got at Oregon State, where it's like, whatever on signing day, and then
3
years later he's like a good starter for you. 4 years later he's like getting NFL buzz, that type of stuff, and he's part of a really good offensive line. So I like Drew Nichols at that sort of near the lower end of that class.
Now, really quick before we let everyone go and enjoy their upcoming weekend, there's a basketball game this weekend. So the next time we all talk after the show will be after the Nebraska game. It's going to be Michigan State's Big Ten home opener. Now, Nebraska, the Fighting Hoibergs up there, they got a spicy little team. They are 6-1 on the season. They have a close loss on a neutral court to St. Mary's, but otherwise, you know what? They've been taking care of business, yes, against some lower-rated teams. However, they do have a double-digit win over Creighton, too, so far this season. So right now, the numbers, Bart Torvik, they suspect a Michigan State 5-point win, 75-70. Nebraska, the strength of this team comes with defense, 23rd team in defensive efficiency in the nation. So it's a good Nebraska team coming in. I know that's not usually what we say before the Spartans square off against the Huskers, but anything that you're going to be looking for in this game specifically? For me, it's just the momentum of guys like Xavier Booker continuing to roll here, because, okay, we've seen it for 2 games in a row. If we catch this for 3 games in a row of Xavier Booker looking solid, then flashes of Final Four banners will be in my head. So I'm just, not to make it specific to one player, but that's where I'm going to go, keeping the microscope on Xavier Booker to see if he can really just be more than a flash in the pan in 2 games. And is this real, Steven? Is he really blooming as a sophomore here?
Right. Well, you took it from me. That was one of the things I was going to say for sure. Is just
sorry, that's really, my bad.
That, and just, I would say collectively carrying over the Maui experience, and particularly that North Carolina game, which we saw, last night against Minnesota in a lot of ways. Now, 50% from 3 obviously is not going to continue to happen, but you want to see them continue to move towards their real average. Their numbers season wide are still going to be down there because of how poorly they started. I never thought they were a bad shooting team. I thought they were a team that was shooting poorly, but I never thought they were ill-equipped to be a decent 3-point shooting team. Maybe not elite, but at least sort of average. And I think they're going to get there. You want to see the numbers creep back toward an acceptable sort of average, as opposed to the lesser extreme that we've seen for most of this. Obviously Xavier Booker, keep doing all of that, more aggression, more emotion, more passion from him and whatnot. I think that translates. Yeah. And then how about Cohen Carr turn into a basketball player in front of our eyes?
I love him like a family member, man. Oh God, he's one of the best people in my life. He has no idea who I am, but he's one of the best people that I know. So
great man, a community leader, all that. So, but seriously, before our eyes, it seems like he's growing up pretty rapidly and becoming just a really important part of what they are. He's becoming what I think we all thought could be. We all know what he is, but everybody also thought there's more there. And if you can translate the nuclear athleticism into other areas of his game, and it's starting to happen, so he's become a very, very important piece of what they do. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's interesting, last night, I'm wondering what you think about this. That was the first time I can remember where the second unit came in and didn't play that well initially. Once the starters started filtering out, that's when Minnesota sort of got that little run and took control there. MSU's second unit, Cohen Carr, Richardson, Trey Holloman has been a great spark for them, immediately when they come in, and many times has played better than the starters in that first 4 or 5 minutes. This was the first time I can remember where that second group didn't do that and played worse, I guess, than the starting guys. So I want to see that correct again a little bit. Not that they have to obviously play better than the stars, but that was a real key, I think, for what this team was in November, was how much juice they were getting off the bench from those guys when Kohler was coming off too, and now it's Booker and everything. But you want to see that second unit continue to be a real asset for him.
Yeah, not to pin it on just two players, and one of them being Xavier Booker, obviously played good, but I think I'm all set on the lineups with Cooper and Booker sharing the court together, because that was really the only 3-4 minute pocket yesterday where Minnesota had any success on the court. Outside of that, maybe just one, guy that's 6'10" or taller at a time. If I could just give Izzo any suggestions, that's just one podcaster's opinion. But I feel like this whole 3-point shooting thing has just been like a big lesson in law of averages, because we came into the season saying okay, 3-point shooting can be an issue this year. In no way should it have been as bad as it was. I think they went into last game as a 22% team or something like that. And what I mean by law of averages is that you can often compare 3-point shooting to free throw shooting with how, good a team is just at shooting ability. Michigan State's in the top 30 for free throw rate. Their 3-point shooting was bottom 30 in the nation. So it's that looks mental, because they can shoot a three somewhat well. Again, like you said, not elite. So maybe they do string together another 50% performance just so the law of averages balances out, water finds its level, the cream rises to the top, whatever cliche you want to use. How drastically is this going to improve to the average of maybe, I don't know, 33 or 34% of the season, wherever they're going to net out at? It's fascinating. I feel like I'm back in math class right now, Steven. So
yeah, I think they can get there, because you just look at them player by player. Aidan has been, close to a 40% shooter for his career. Trey Holloman took a huge step as a shooter last year. Xavier Booker, we know, can shoot it. Jackson Kohler has developed a shot. Jace Richardson, we've seen, can shoot it. Frankie Fiddler, I think, is a good shooter. I'm probably even missing a guy or two. But I never thought they didn't have the bodies or the skill sets to do it. They just were shooting poorly. There's been some situations, even though definitely across the last couple of years, we're man, I feel like there may be a shooter or two short.
Sure.
I didn't feel like that with this team. I just felt man, I did think by the end of the season that the averages would catch up, the percentages would catch up. And, like I said, probably not overwhelming, but not a detrimental element to what this team is. And I think they're getting there.
Right. Because I've been clamoring, I just don't think this team's going to be great 3-point shooting, maybe average at best. My God, could you imagine if this team was average at best at shooting the 3-point ball? They would be squarely in the top 15 in the nation at this point, maybe even more than that. So maybe it gets to that point, maybe it doesn't. Regardless, that's just been a fascinating storyline to follow so far this season. Steven, can't thank you enough for your time, insight, knowledge. I am incredibly sorry it's been so long since we had you on the last time. I need a producer. I'm the worst bookkeeper in the world. So really cannot thank you enough, man. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy your upcoming weekend?
Sure. Just go to SpartanTailgate.com and poke around, read around, click around, do all that stuff. And if you like what you see, or you just like hearing me here and want me to continue to be employed and things like that, just sign up for a VIP subscription for us. Right now, it's 50% off, depending on when you hear this.
Solid.
So you're getting 12 months for a really good price. And there's a lot that's going to be happening. Before the end of this month, I think you'll be satisfied with more recruiting stuff. Obviously, transfer portal is going to be huge. Then you've got basketball. Then you've got spring ball. Then you've got summer camps. Then you've got next football season. Then you've got next year's signing day and the start of next year's basketball season. So there's a whole lot in there in that 12 months when you think about it. And we'd love to have you.
I think you'd get your money's worth, not even just by the end of the year, but by the end of the week, probably, with how busy things are in East Lansing. Guys, you already know it's crazy around these parts. If anything happens in East Lansing, you know where to hear about it. Not just with Steven over at 24/7 Sports, but also right here locked on Spartans. We will see you after the Nebraska game. Until then, though, hey, take care of yourselves. Enjoy your weekend. Let's mix in the water. Go green.